Y'all, this episode is why you don't fly dragons drunk. Don't drink and fly. Don't do it. Oh my goodness. This was an episode. It was a slow burn to start, but then by the end, whoa, we were going. So before we get into this, I want to say a quick little spoiler warning. Spoilers ahead, because we are about to talk about everything House of the Dragon, episode 4, and it is a lot that is happening in this episode. A lot of stuff. I do sometimes look ahead to the histories to see what's coming up because I can't wait. But for this one, I have not looked ahead on so many things. I'm very proud of myself, actually, for resisting. Although I will say the thing that's really cool about House of the Dragon is I feel like it's kind of made with readers of the books in mind. Now, granted, I've read all of the Game of Thrones series, A Song of Ice and Fire. I just haven't read Fire and Blood, so I don't know about the history and what happens in that book. I've just been every now and then looking up stuff through wikis and reading about those histories. There's not really an issue if you have, I think, read that book and are really familiar with it, because the fun of this show is more how things unfold, not what is happening. It's not the twists and turns of what happens, because I feel like even not being familiar with all of the history here, I see things coming and it still affects me just as emotionally when it arrives, even if I see it coming. Something especially in this episode did that, but we'll talk about that more as we go through. So let's start off with what Daemon is up to in this episode. A lot of people are calling this the Haunting of Harrenhal. Poor Daemon is still over in Harrenhal. He's trying to rustle up this army. I feel like it's not looking very good for the black team here, because it feels like they don't have a lot of resources. They don't have a lot of great plans. They're kind of all split up, and it kind of feels like everyone's doing their own thing. Even though I think they actually have more synergy than the Greens, I feel like the blacks here are not communicating very well with each other. Case in point, Daemon, who's holed up in Harrenhal, is having lots of freaky nightmares and lots of walking through freaky visions, and is not even sending ravens back to Dragonstone to let them know what's going on at all. So what's Daemon dealing with? This episode, I feel like it was really cool to see him having to deal with this idea that he is Aemond, basically. He is like Aemond. He is the brother that is just out to do harm to the other brother, and is kind of like, I don't want to call Aemond the evil brother, because I feel like Aemond is one of my favorite characters, and I do believe he is kind of right to be the way he is. I think it makes a lot of sense, but if we had to pick, I think Aemond would kind of be more the evil brother. I mean, he literally wears an eye patch. So this idea that Daemon is kind of like the bad brother, in the sense that he's more interested in hurting his family than helping his family, if that makes sense. But also, he's a great tactician. Aemond and him are very similar in many ways, so it makes sense that in this vision he would see himself as Aemond, which I think scares him, because I don't think he thinks that Aemond is too good of a guy, which, fair? Seeing yourself as the villain that you're going after or have gone after multiple times must be pretty shocking. However, we also learn in this episode that a lot of what's happening with Daemon is perhaps because of the bed he's sleeping in, which is a heart tree bed. Now, I don't know if all the beds in Harrenhal are made out of heart trees. I don't think Alys specifies that. But I would say if I were Daemon, I would be asking for a room transfer. I'd be like, could I get like any other room in Harrenhal? Do I have to sleep in the freaky bedroom? So he has been having apparently a lot of these weird dreams, so Alys Rivers claims, because of the kind of bed he's laying in. And also it's Harrenhal and it's super haunted, so yeah. I also love a lot of people's theories that Alys Rivers is not real, but also I do think she is real, just because, well, I mean, I looked up the histories, so yeah, I know what happens with her. I don't want to spoil things for people that don't want to know, but I do think she is real, but she's definitely super freaky, and I kind of love her for it. I'm very curious to see how she gets to where I read she ends up, and kind of just what goes on with her. I think she's a really fascinating character, and I love the way that she also challenges Daemon. And I also love Daemon. There's so many characters in this that I'm really enjoying their journeys and seeing what happens with them. I've also been wondering through this meet at Harrenhal that we have with Daemon trying to put this army together, if the Tullys are really as weak as they seem, where they don't seem to have a handle on anyone in the Riverlands here, because I'm just wondering if Lord Tully might be kind of faking an illness and is actually just pretending to be sick to lay low, because this would be a pretty terrible civil war to be involved in. We've already seen that. So I'm wondering if that's a plan or if that's legitimate. I haven't looked up the histories there, so you can discuss in the comments based on your knowledge, and I'll probably see some of that. So if you want to tell me what's up with that and spoil it, you can. Or if you just want to theorize based on what you know and maybe you're not aware of what happens here, feel free. Yeah, I just feel like something more is going on with the Tullys than what we're seeing here, and I wonder if we'll see more of that. I still miss the Starks. Where are the Starks at? I'm going to say this in every episode until we get Cregan Stark again, because I feel like we haven't seen Cregan Stark in so long. So I guess we'll see again if he shows up, when he shows up. He's got to show up at some point, right? I mean, we're also referring to his Song of Ice and Fire in this. He's got to show up at some point, right? Also, we get a lot of cool Rhaenys moments in this episode. One that I particularly wanted to touch on is a moment where she goes to see Corlys and she runs into the guy that saved him, which is actually Corlys's bastard son. And I thought this was an interesting visit because I like how Corlys interprets this as like Rhaenys trying to torment him and just like rile him up. But I think really what Rhaenys was trying to do here is show that she actually does support him raising up his illegitimate son, and that could actually be a good thing for Corlys. I think that Rhaenys sees that Corlys doesn't really connect with some of the other members of his family, the younger members of his family, his heirs, and I think she wants to give him something that he can get, because this is a guy who is on the sea all the time. He gets the sea. He literally also saved Corlys' life. And I feel like this is, in a weird way, Rhaenys actually trying to support Corlys, but Corlys does not take it that way. Anyways, Rhaenys also has to go back to Dragonstone, which is going to have some huge ramifications, but that happens later in the episode. And I got a whole bunch of stuff I want to talk about in regards to that, so I'm going to save that for later in this review. Alicent is also up to some interesting stuff here. She's reading books, she's sipping moon tea, she's leaving her moon tea cup out for Larys to just check out. She's breaking Viserys' stuff that she fixed. Man, there is a lot of symbolism with Viserys' sculptures in this and everything he built. The fact that Alicent breaks the dragon that she fixed for him, that means so much here. It's this idea, I feel like, of what's really happening with Alicent in this episode, which is, I think, her acknowledging that while she respects Viserys' wisdom and thinks that he was a really smart and a really good leader, and I think she wants to emulate that in ways, she also just doesn't really care for what he was building, and ultimately is coming to terms with the fact that she's going to just discard that. I think she's been wrestling with it up to this point, especially when she learned in the last episode that Rhaenyra was actually intended to be the rightful heir, and Alicent had misinterpreted what Viserys was saying because she didn't have context. She, I think, was clinging on to this idea that no, like, I have had it right. This isn't wrong. And I think now she's just resigned to, it doesn't really matter. I've made my plays. I want it to go my way. And so I'm committing to that, which could be really dangerous going forward. Alicent might be out to really win it moving forward and not be interested in peace. I mean, I don't think she's interested in peace anymore. I think we've crossed that line. I think we crossed that line last episode, but we're really gonna, I think, be stepping over it, and it's gonna get bloody, I think. Speaking of things getting bloody, let's talk about Criston Cole and all of the trail of blood he's leaving across the Riverlands. So I love how Criston Cole just keeps failing upwards. I mean, I don't love it. I hate it. I want it to stop. Down with Criston Cole. There was a thread where people were talking about like controversial cosplays, or like cosplays that, you know, if you did them well, like people would hate it. And Criston Cole was one that came up because we all hate Criston Cole. But at the same time, if you did a really good Criston Cole cosplay, that would be so cool. But everyone would be like, oh, I hate it, but I love it. It'd be this very like split feeling that I think we'd all have because we just really love to hate this guy. And mad props to Fabien Frankel, who plays Criston Cole. He's doing such a good job, and I hate him so much. I just want to punch his face. Not Frankel's, just Cole's. Just the character. He drives me crazy. So something needs to be done about this. But I do think we're getting a bit of foreshadowing here with the fact that when Cole takes out Lord Darklyn, we have this statement, this prophecy, perhaps, that Lord Darklyn puts out into the cosmos. And I also feel like the fact that Cole is conquering all these people and using fear and using a strong sense of domination, you're either with me or you're against me, there's no mercy for anyone here. I think that actually might come back to bite Cole in the butt, because while he is building up this strong army, sure, I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity for these people to rebel, how quickly they're going to take that. Because I feel like Cole has not shown himself to be a leader that you would necessarily want to work under. He's got a lot of bold, kind of dumb plans that do pan out, but I think they all come with a pretty big cost. That is something that I think is going to come back around, and like Lord Darklyn said, will be sort of this sense of karma. Lord Darklyn says to him before he dies, "Is there no honor left in this world, Cole? Sacking your queen's own castles and putting her people to the sword, Kingmaker?" And he spits on him and he says, "You are not fit for the white cloak. Yours will come in kind. Karma is a bitch." And I think that is what we're going to see eventually. How long that might take, hopefully it's by the end of this season. I'd really love that. But the longer it takes, the worse it'll probably be. That's what I'm going to say about that. Case in point, Cole decides it's a good idea to attack in the middle of the day. They're attacking a small castle, which is right across the way from Dragonstone, connected to Rhaenyra's council. And the idea is to basically cut them off from land. Now, granted, if Daemon were to take Harrenhal, then they would have that, but it's also not necessarily close to them. And instead of going for Harrenhal, this is Aemond's plan. We'll talk a little bit more about Aemond and Aegon and how that plan, the clash of that. But that is basically the plan. It's an awful plan, and yet it works surprisingly well. However, it's also interesting to note that Cole basically is using his newfound army as cannon fodder. He throws them all in, and because it's the middle of the day, a lot of them are taken out by arrows that are in the front line. Like, if you're in that front line, you're basically just dead. And then there's dragons that get involved. And I think the whole point of this plan, in terms of Aemond's thought process here, because he's very much involved in this plan, is that he wanted to draw out a dragon. He wanted that to happen because he wanted to take out a dragon. And honestly, that is pretty smart. However, it also means we get our first view of what dragon warfare is like, and it is horrifying, which I think Cole becomes aware of in this episode. I think the only reason that Cole succeeds here is because of Aemond's involvement and because of Aemond's part in this plan and the fact that it's really actually Aemond's plan at the end of the day. So I'm wondering if there's going to be a part where Aemond and Cole are going to not be so buddy-buddy, and if that might be the downfall of Cole, or if it'll be when Aemond inevitably is maybe taken out. I knew, though, as soon as we were getting dragon on dragon action here, someone was going to be gone. I had a feeling last episode, I kind of said I felt like Rhaenys was maybe the person that's in danger, just because she doesn't seem like the one that would be in danger. She seems like she's got a good head on her shoulders. She's a badass. She can fight. Corlys almost died. If one of them's going to go, and they're pretty happy, so one of them has to go, then we thought Corlys would make sense, which is why I thought Rhaenys is probably the one that we're going to lose, though, because wouldn't that be terrible? Case in point, Rhaenys ends up going in to fight to protect the castle. Rhaenyra comes back and she actually wants to fly in. And I gotta say, well, that would not have been a good plan here. So she does not go in because Rhaenys says, "I have the biggest dragon. I'm the most experienced. Clearly, I'm the one you need to send in." And everyone also is like, "You can't go in there. You're the queen. That would be awful." It would be awful. Which is why when Aegon goes in, I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Is Aegon gonna royally mess up whatever plan Aemond and Cole have? Not really, actually. He didn't mess it up too much. He just messed himself up. We'll get to that in a second. Rhaenyra also has a really great moment with Jace where she reveals to him the Song of Ice and Fire and the importance of why they need to rule over Westeros and what that actually represents. Aegon the Conqueror's dream. It's also very meaningful and also, again, lends to this idea of a greater purpose for why they want to rule. It's not just about ruling people, it's about being protectors of the realm. Aegon, though, does go into battle, unlike Rhaenyra, does not sit it out. In fact, he is literally told by his mom when he asks for advice and says, "What do you think I should do, Mom?" She says, "Just don't do anything. Just chill, please. Stay out of it." What does he do? Drinks a flagon of wine, knocks it off a table like a cat, and then decides he's gonna get on Sunfire, his dragon, and fly out into this battle. Prompted as well by a conversation that he has with Aemond, where Aemond seems to mock him, mocks the fact that he knows nothing about battle or war, mocks the fact that he doesn't really know how to speak High Valyrian very well, which was pretty funny, honestly. Come to make a war, decides to fly out. And this is why, like I said at the beginning of this video, you don't drink and fly. It's not good. Doesn't end up well for Aegon. He's taken out pretty quickly by Meleys Rhaenys' dragon, and not looking so good for Aegon. The beautiful thing about this episode and about what this show is doing is that it's taking the dragons and I think adding a context to them that we haven't really seen before, or that maybe just wasn't felt as much before. Dragons are basically like nukes in this, and I think the whole idea is that what happens when we unleash these beasts is it's just going to be carnage. The other tragic thing, though, that is a layer that we don't really have with nukes, is that these dragons are beings. These are intelligent beasts who have lifelong bonds with their riders. So the other sad thing is that both with Aegon and Sunfire and Meleys and Rhaenys, we see this connection with both of them, and it's interspliced in the way they cut it, which I think is also really smart and beautiful, allowing us to feel this connection to both of these characters through their connection to their dragons. And the thing is no matter which side you're rooting for, a dragon dying is really sad because you're losing something that I think is greater for the characters, but also for the world. And so that's where, like I said, the analogy doesn't quite work the same, but it's just really sad. It's horrifying, that's the nuke part, and it's sad. That's the fantasy part. People were pumped for these dragon fights. I was dreading it, and I definitely feel like that was right, because I cried a lot in this episode, especially losing Rhaenys in this way. Oh, I mean, I knew it was going to happen. I knew once Rhaenys hooked herself to her dragon. I know she did that to go upside down as well, but that just felt like a moment of she's ready. She's like, I might not make it out of this, but I have to try to defend this castle. I have to continue on. And she did, and she was taken out by Aemond and Vhagar. Tragic loss. Aegon, I'm not so upset about, but I will say the fact that Aegon, I feel like Sunfire didn't deserve this at least. Sunfire, sweetie. Sunfire at least is still breathing at the end of this, but I don't think that Aegon or Sunfire are in good shape. So we end this episode with the question of, what is the state of Aegon and Sunfire? Is Aegon dead? Is Sunfire dead? Are they just super badly injured? Can they recover from this? I would say the fact that Aemond takes Aegon's dagger either means that he's not going to need that anymore, so he's in such a bad state that he can't do anything. He might be in a really, really bad state. Or he's dead, because you don't need a dagger if you're dead. I also feel like it's interesting, Aemond's seemingly taking out his blade to put it back in. What does that mean? And Cole's reaction. Cole looked pretty upset. Makes me think that Aegon's not going to be getting up anytime soon. We barely just see the top of Aegon, so it's also hard to tell because we haven't seen the full damage and what's been done. But my theory is I think Aegon might have bitten the dust or will bite the dust soon. What does that mean, though? Then would Aemond be ruling? And would that be worse? Probably, yeah, because Aemond's pretty crazy. However, he's ruthless. I don't think anyone on the green so that I really want to rule. Bring Otto back. Honestly, I never thought I'd say the words, but he's a better person to lead us than anyone else over there, really. So that's basically how the episode ends. That's it for this episode. I think overall, I really, really enjoyed this episode. I would say I want to give it like a 9 out of 10. Especially the dragon fights. I just feel like it's so cool the way it's done and the way you see it. And I'm just imagining as an actor, like having to shoot these things. It's wild, I'm sure, experiencing what it's like to pretend to fly a dragon and make that look real. And they really do sell it very well in the show. It looked amazing, that battle. Cannot wait for the next episode. Literally on the edge of my seat. I cannot wait. So hopefully we get that soon. Well, next week. And I will be trying to fast forward time till then because I just really, really want to watch that next episode, but I can't watch it now, but I don't want to spoil it by looking at the history, so I'm just going to wait. I'll see you next time. And until then, friends, stay nerdy.